Okay, picture this. You're driving alone at night when the car behind you starts flashing its headlights. Over and over. Your heart starts pounding. Is it a warning? Or is it a threat? We all know this story. It's the classic urban legend of the killer in the back seat, a tale that was a staple of sleepovers and campfire stories. We usually just dismiss it as a silly, scary story. A bit of fun, right? But what if it's more than that? What if these stories, these modern myths we tell each other, are actually our anxieties talking? What if they're our subconscious mind trying to process the very real and often unspoken fears of modern life? For centuries, folklore and myths were how societies made sense of a chaotic world. They were cautionary tales, moral lessons, and shared stories that held a culture together. Well, today, that tradition is alive and well, just in the form of urban legends. These stories are more than just spooky entertainment. They're a mirror. They're powerful metaphors that give voice to our deepest societal fears. Our fears about crime, our distrust of technology, and our feeling of being vulnerable in a world that's changing faster than ever. We're going to explore how the myths we create aren't just fiction, but are actually telling a deeper truth about who we are. One of the most common feelings in modern life is that things are fraying at the edges. There's a sense that the world is more dangerous, that you can't trust people, and that random violence could just erupt at any moment and shatter your sense of safety. This feeling is so deep that sociologists actually have a name for it: ontological insecurity. Basically, it's a deep uncertainty about the stability of everything. And urban legends are brilliant at tapping into this fear. No story does it better than the killer in the back seat. The legend started making the rounds as early as the 1960s, and it's a masterpiece of tension. A woman, almost always alone, is driving at night. A car or a truck gets behind her and starts flashing its high beams erratically. She's terrified. She thinks the driver is a maniac, a stalker, a threat. So she speeds home, slams the door, maybe calls the police, only to be told the chilling truth. The other driver wasn't trying to hurt her. He was trying to save her. Every time he flashed his lights, it was because a man with an axe, hidden in her back seat, was sitting up to attack her. The literal fear here is pretty obvious. There's a murderer in your car. But the metaphorical power is so much deeper. In our society, the car is an extension of our private space. It's our personal bubble. This legend completely violates that sanctuary, where the thing you thought was a threat was actually a warning. That speaks volumes about our confusion and mistrust in an anonymous world. We just don't know who to trust. The legend really took off as cars gave young people, especially women, this brand new freedom and mobility. So the story acts as a cautionary tale, reflecting anxiety about this new independence and the unseen dangers that might come with it. It's a metaphor for our profound sense of vulnerability and the fear that in our fast, isolated lives, danger can pop up from anywhere, at any time, and we won't see it coming until it's too late. If the killer in the back seat is about anonymous danger, other legends are about threats that are much, much closer to home. They play on the idea that a monster could be living right next door. These stories tap into a community's fear of the other and the hidden evils that might be lurking in their own town, disguised as someone familiar. A terrifyingly real example of this is the legend of Cropsey. For decades, kids on Staten Island, New York, were told spooky stories about a boogeyman named Cropsey. The details changed, but the core was the same. Cropsey was an escaped patient from a local asylum who had a hook for a hand and lived in the tunnels beneath the abandoned Seaview Hospital. He'd come out at night to snatch children. It was a classic campfire tale, the kind of story parents might tell to keep their kids from wandering off after dark. But then, the legend started to feel disturbingly real. In the 1970s and 80s, children on Staten Island began to disappear, and the community was gripped by real panic. The line between the local myth and a horrifying reality started to blur. Eventually, police arrested a man named Andre Rand. Rand was a former janitor at the Willowbrook State School, a notoriously horrific institution for children with disabilities located on Staten Island. When he was caught, he was living in makeshift campsites on the abandoned grounds of the school, the very setting of the Cropsey legend. In 1988, Rand was convicted of kidnapping, and while he was never convicted of murder, he was the prime suspect in the disappearance of several children. The Cropsey legend wasn't just some random ghost story. While the boogeyman myth existed before the real-life crimes, the two became tangled together in the public's mind. The story became a communal narrative that gave a face to the community's very real, tangible fears about the imposing, scary institutions in their midst. Like Willowbrook, Andre Rand didn't have a hook for a hand, but he became the living embodiment of the Cropsey legend, a real-life monster who stepped out of the shadows of a local myth. It's a chilling example of how urban legends can sometimes act as a society's early warning system, giving a name to an anxiety that, in this case, turned out to be tragically real. Okay, we've moved from fears on the road and in our neighborhoods to a fear that lives right in our pockets and on our kitchen counters. Our world is built on technology that we love for its convenience, but also kind of fear for its power. We have this deep, collective anxiety that the devices we rely on might one day turn on us. And this has created a whole new genre of urban legends. The biggest techno myth of our time is the idea that your phone is always listening to you. You've probably experienced this. You're talking to a friend about needing new hiking boots, and a few hours later, your social media is flooded with ads for them. The immediate conclusion is creepy. Your phone's mic must be eavesdropping on your private conversations to sell you stuff. It's a story that spreads like wildfire because it just feels so true. It validates a very real fear about the complete loss of privacy. Now, tech companies and cybersecurity experts have repeatedly stated this isn't quite how it works. Your phone isn't constantly recording you. The amount of data would just be insane. But the legend sticks around because it's a perfect metaphor for a truth that is, in some ways, even more unsettling. The reality is, they don't need to listen. Through a massive network of data collection, your search history, location tracking, what apps you use, who you're connected to on social media, data brokers and tech giants build an incredibly detailed profile of you. Their algorithms can predict what you want with scary accuracy, sometimes before you're even fully aware of it yourself. So, while the story of the eavesdropping phone isn't literally true, it works as a perfect metaphor for our very real anxieties about digital surveillance and our loss of control. We feel like we're being watched and manipulated by forces we can't see or understand. And when incidents pop up where smart speakers have accidentally recorded private conversations and sent them to random contacts, it just fuels those fears, proving that unintended listening can happen. The myth of the listening phone is our century's version of a ghost story, expressing our fear of the invisible spirits, the algorithms and corporate giants that haunt our digital lives. Perhaps the most primal category of urban legends taps into our fear of bodily harm and losing our own autonomy. These stories reflect an anxiety that in our cold, globalized world, the human body itself can become just another product to be bought and sold on a black market. And this fear is perfectly captured in the timeless legend of the kidney heist. The story is iconic. A business traveler, sometimes a student, is in a new city. They have a drink with a charming stranger and bama. Next thing they know, they wake up in a hotel bathtub full of ice. There's a sharp pain in their lower back. On the wall, taped to the mirror, is a note. Call 911 or you will die. They soon discover they're missing a kidney, surgically removed while they were passed out. Police and medical organizations have consistently debunked this story. There are 0 credible, documented cases of this ever happening. And yet, the legend has been going strong since the 90s. First through email chains and now on social media, because it's a brutally effective metaphor. It speaks to our anxiety about being vulnerable when we travel, our distrust of strangers, and the sheer horror of being exploited in the most personal way possible. The legend takes our fear of a world where profit is more important than human life and makes it terrifyingly real. It's the fear that your own body could be stolen and commodified without your consent. And while the random bathtub surgery is a myth, organ trafficking is a grim reality. It just typically involves the exploitation of vulnerable people in poorer nations who are tricked or forced into selling their organs. The urban legend takes this complex, distant problem and transforms it into a sudden personal attack. It makes a global issue feel immediate, a cautionary tale about the dark side of our interconnected world. From the killer in the backseat to the listening smartphone, from the boogeyman in the woods to the organ thief in the city. These stories are so much more than just spooky tales. They are the folklore of the modern age. They're the language we use to talk about our collective fears when we can't quite find the right words. They're metaphors for the anxieties that define our time, the fear of random violence, the breakdown of community trust, the loss of privacy to technology, and the ultimate horror of being treated like a product. Urban legends hold a mirror up to society, reflecting our biggest concerns, our prejudices, and our values. They aren't relics of a superstitious past. They are a living, breathing part of our culture, evolving right along with us. The stories we tell in the dark reveal more about us than they do about the monsters they describe. They show us what we're afraid of losing and what we're desperate to protect. So, the next time you hear a story that makes your skin crawl, a story you know can't possibly be true but feels real anyway, ask yourself, what is it really trying to say? What modern urban legends have you heard? Stories about new gadgets, strange things happening in your town, or warnings that spread through your friend group? Share them in the comments below. I'd love to read what anxieties are bubbling up in your world. And hey, if you found this interesting and want to keep exploring the hidden meanings in our world, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.